Welcome to another episode of Best of Johnston County, brought to you by Breeden Law Office. Our host, Jonathan Breeden, an experienced family lawyer with a deep connection to the community, is ready to take you on a journey through the area that he has called home for over 20 years. Whether it's a deep dive into the love locals have for the county or unraveling the complexities of family law, Best of Johnston County presents an authentic slice of this unique community.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Best of Johnston County, the podcast about the community of Johnston County. My name is Jonathan Breeden, and I'm the host of this podcast and the owner of the Breeden Law Office. And today we have as our guest Representative Donna White, who has been in the North Carolina General Assembly for many years, and before that, for many years was on the Johnston County School Board and is a Johnston County native. So who better to talk about Johnston County and where it's gone and where it's going than her? Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate that. It's a pleasure to be your guest, and I look forward to this questionnaire.
Yeah, it could be interesting. We could talk. I mean, if you and I started talking, this podcast might be like one of those Tim Ferriss podcasts that are like 90 minutes long, and we could do 4 or 5 episodes about what's going on in the legislature.
Well, that's why I brought some notes so I wouldn't go on.
Oh my goodness, it could go all night, but we're not going to do that because we really could talk for the next 3 hours. But I do want to talk about a lot of the, you're in elected office for the last 20 years, I believe, and so a lot of people know about you, but a lot of people that maybe listen to this podcast don't. So let's start out with, I know you're from Johnston County. You're born and raised in Clayton. Tell us a little bit about that.
Actually, I wasn't born in Clayton.
Okay.
I was born in Southport.
Oh,
My
okay.
father's family was from the coast.
Okay.
And he was raised in Bolivia, and I was raised there until I was 7.
Okay.
My mother's family dated back to Johnston County to the late 1700s. And so after they got married and I was born, that was a long time because they'd been married almost 9 years before I was born. But my mother just wanted to come back to home, which was Clayton. And Daddy had worked for the CCC camp, planting the trees at Clemens Forest.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's how he met my mom. And then they got married and moved to Bolivia. So anyway, I've been here since I was 7. That's a long time. Don't ask me how old I am.
No, I'm not going to go there. But I know you went to Clayton High School.
I started in first grade in Clayton. Like I said, I was 7 years old, but
right.
My birthday is in November, so I started when I was almost 7. But I started in Clayton and graduated from Clayton. Was a head cheerleader at Clayton and Miss Clayton High School and all those things.
Right.
Yeah, well, I've been in Clayton since I was 7 years old.
Well, yeah, well, and then it's after, you become a nurse. I know that. When and where did you, not I guess when, but where did you go to school and start being a nurse?
I started out at Watts Hospital School of Nursing, which is Watts University now.
Okay.
And then I got some additional education so that I could go into public health because at the diploma program in nursing, you could not do public health. So I got a public health job, and then they said, oh, well, you don't have your BS yet. And I said, well, no. They said, well, where did you graduate from? I said, Watts Hospital. They said, you're hired. So, and that was a trend in the year that I graduated. So, but then I went on to ECE and got some more there in UNC Chapel Hill as well. So I continued my education.
Okay, and so what are some of the jobs I guess you had in nursing and public health over the years?
I began in the intensive care unit, pediatric intensive care unit, and worked there in the hospital. And then I always had a strong interest in being with the people, serving the people in the local community, which is why I went to nursing school. I wanted to be a missionary nurse. But Dr. Schweitzer died before I finished school, so I couldn't go to work for him. I didn't want to go to Africa without him.
Oh, my goodness.
But anyway, so that's what led me into public health. So pretty much I worked at the Orange County Health Department, which was 5-county health department at that time. I worked in the Hillsborough office.
Okay.
I did school nursing. We were called generalized nurses. We did school nursing. We did all the lab and all the clinical coverage, and then we did the community home visiting. So I got a really good, strong background in public health nursing on the job, as well as going back to school. And so then my husband and I moved back to Johnston County, Clayton, and I went to work at the Johnston County Health Department. I'd been there about 2 weeks, and they made me pediatric nurse consultant. Okay. So I had a team of aides and LPNs underneath me. Dr. Daniels, who was the only pediatrician in the county at that time, wanted me to become what they called then a nurse extender, which is now a nurse practitioner. Oh, okay. So he took me into his office for a year and taught me everything that he needed to teach me, and then I opened up a well child, sick child clinic at the health department and did that for several years. And then child development people came down to Smithville and wanted me to start a program to teach young parents how to take care of their children who had disabilities and that type of thing. So they're still using that program now at Partnership for Children.
Oh, how about that? How about the Partnership for Children?
Yeah,
how about that? That's awesome.
And then when the AIDS epidemic came out in the late 80s, I just was intrigued, being Florence Nightingale, I was intrigued about the Simian War.
Yeah.
And so I thought, this is just like the plague, that came about during that war. And so I became kind of a local expert on HIV/AIDS, and as a result of that, Governor Hunt wanted all 7th grade parents to be trained, to be educated so that you could also train the children.
Right.
That was a caveat. The parents had to have had the course first.
Okay.
So I spent probably a year going around Johnston County and other places teaching parents about HIV/AIDS.
Okay.
And as a result of that, the Health Resources Services Administration learned about me, and at that time by this time I decided to switch over to the Johnston County Health Department, but the home care division instead of the clinic division.
Okay.
So I was in home health, and I kept reading, continuing my interest in HIV/AIDS,
Right.
and Health Resources Services Administration of Bethesda, Maryland, contacted all the 50 states and said, we've got a case management model of nursing that is new, and we want to have states to apply to get this grant and so forth.
Okay.
So, here's a little peon nurse at Johnston County Health Department, and I wrote a grant to get into the state of North Carolina for HRSA.
Okay.
And they were only going to take 6 states.
Okay.
So I knew it was going to be highly competitive. Well, I knew and they were targeting the aging population.
Right.
Well, of course, I was doing home care and home health, so I knew aging. But I said, I'm going to put a little hook in there. So I put that I would also like to do case management for HIV/AIDS patients, because we were getting a lot of AIDS patients coming back home from New York, New Jersey, back into Johnston County. So I put that little caveat in my application. Took my family to Disney World, came home, and all the health department was standing on the outside of the health department clapping for me. And I got out of the car. I said, what in the world's going on? Is somebody coming? They said, they've arrived. I said, I don't know what's going on. They said, you got your grant. I said, well, they better give me more than $2,000, because I am not going to do all this work. They said, oh, no, you didn't get $2,000. I said, it was less than that. That's a lot of money. Because, I had a big plan there. I said, how much did I get? They said, you got $6 million.
$6 million?
Now, this was more than the health department budget.
Oh, my gosh.
So I became a little famous.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I did that program, got it set up, and we were doing really good. I had a whole big staff of nurses and aides and all that, and going really well. And then the doctor who managed it in Raleigh at the it was still the Department of Public Health then, now DHHS, but it was Department of Public Health then. And she decided, she got called to go to Washington to work at the Institute of Health. And so she recommended that I come to Raleigh and be her. And so the state had to rewrite a job description, because I wasn't a doctor, I was a nurse.
You were a nurse, so so you went to Raleigh.
So I went to Raleigh and became the HIV/AIDS coordinator for the whole state. And
how about
that grew into developing a community alternatives program. We had it for children, we had it for adults, but we didn't have anything for HIV/AIDS. So I worked with Medicaid, the Division of Health Resources at the time, or Department of Human Resources, and developed a program for HIV/AIDS for CAP/AIDS, Medicaid reimbursed services. And so that just kept growing. And by 2004, my parents were getting older, and I knew that my mother was going to need some care that I wanted to be able to provide at home. So, and I was traveling all over the state.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
So
That's
finally,
when I first met you.
I said, they had been asking me to come to work as the nurse consultant for the Division of Aging and Adult Services, which was now the Department of Health and Human Services, and Public Health had gone over there too as well. So in 2004, I applied, and I went to the Department of Health and Human Services, to the Division of Aging and Adult Services as their home care consultant, and stayed there until I was there when I got elected to the House.
But
that 2004 is also when I got elected
to the school board, right? That was my next question.
Prior to that, I did the Board of Adjustment, Town Council, or not Town Council, but Board of Adjustment and Planning Board for Clayton for many years, and the advisory chair for the high school at Clayton High School. But I went to I got a call one day from a current senator and his wife, and she said, we want you to run for the school board. I said, no, I can't do that. I don't have time to do that. The next thing I know, I'm putting my name on a ballot, running for school board.
No,
got
I remember,
elected,
and
I stayed elected from 2004 to 16 when my term was up, and Representative Leo Daughtry announced in 15 that he was not going to run again, and that was the first year that we had December filing as opposed to March filing.
Right.
And so threw my name on a ballot because I was asked to do that, and the next thing I know, I'm going to Raleigh.
Right. No, I know.
that was in 17, 6 years and 10 months from
golly,
ago.
That was crazy. I remember helping you out on that first school board campaign because, you were talking about the issues that I thought, and I, I didn't have kids at the time, but I thought, we need community schools. We need schools that are responsive to the parents. That's what you were talking about. That's what you attempted to do in the 12 years you were there. It changed a lot in the 12 years there because for a long time it was you and Larry Strickland, and y'all were saying one thing, and the rest of the school board was saying something else. And over time, you got a little bit more help. And
we worked really hard and had a really good school. And actually, Representative Strickland, as you know, ran for the House at the same time. Neither one of us knew that the other ones had planned to run. It just different things.
Right.
The person that he's in their seat now was getting older and had some health issues.
Right.
And Representative Daughtry had decided to not run again. So we both kept it very quiet. Nobody knew that we did not know each other were running, and so all of a sudden we both ran and won. So when we went to Raleigh, we were called the Johnston County Twins. They set us beside each other all the time. But it was really interesting because when we left the school board in 2016, I had to leave in November because my term was up. He had 2 more years on his term. If he hadn't been elected to the House, he could have stayed on 2 more years. And so so he left in December after the December meeting. But we had just been recognized, Johnston County School System had just been recognized by the National Certification Board, and actually Dr. Kroom, the superintendent at that time, flew up and it received an award because we were the only school system in the United States that had met the highest criteria for recertification in all of the areas. Like say the highest you can make was 5, and there were 5 areas and we made 5 on each area. So, and we had the highest graduation rate, the lowest dropout rate. So we were pretty famous when we got to Raleigh already.
You were. You had a great school board that was there. You had arguably the best superintendent in all of North Carolina, and Dr. Kroom, and things were going really well. But he had, about the time you were getting off, he had retired, and now I think he's the president of Mount Olive College. So they went with a different, they were going with a different superintendent, and everybody's got a different opinion on that, but he's no longer the superintendent, and we've got Dr. Bracey now. So you, I guess what have you, what has been the most surprising thing about being in the legislature? There's 120 members of the state house. They're from all over the state. There are about 68 Republicans and 42 Democrats, I think.
72.
So 72 Republicans, 40. Right.
Do the math up.
Right. I'm doing the math. I'm trying to get to 120 because somebody switched, right? So it's 72 and 48.
Right.
And it was 71 and 49 before Representative Cotham, I guess, out of Charlotte, switched earlier this year. So when I worked at the legislature as an intern for Robin Hayes in 1995, Leo Daughtry was the majority leader. The Republicans had just gotten the North Carolina House. Harold Brubaker was the speaker. Billy Creech from Clayton was the finance chair. And that was an adventure. And that was 68 to 42. The governor did not have the veto power back then, or 68 to 52. Excuse me, I'm not good at math. Anyway, but they didn't have the veto power, and they picked up 26 seats in the sort of Gingrich Revolution in '94, the contract with North Carolina and all that. And that was amazing, just to try to watch that with Governor Hunt, and the Senate was 26-24 Democrat, Republican, Mark Basnight, Tony Rand, Bev Perdue, Roy Cooper. They're running the state Senate, and they didn't see things the same way Leo Daughtry, Harold Brubaker, and Robin Hayes saw things, or Jim Hunt, and everybody had to sort of get along. And I think it was a lot more collegial back then than I think it is now. But, that's sort of water on the bridge. But I really enjoyed it. Learned a ton. The issues don't ever change. The faces change. Maybe the solutions change, but the issues never really change.
That's right.
Safety, education, roads. That's basically what you want from your government. You know what I mean?
Have family law questions? Need guidance to navigate legal challenges? The compassionate team at Breeden Law Office is here to help. Visit us at www.breedenfirm.com for practical advice, resources, or to book a consultation. Remember, when life gets messy, you don't have to face it alone.
So what's been the most, I guess, surprising thing in the 6 or 7 years you've been there?
Well, I guess if I tell the honest truth, I think the most surprising thing is that, being a conservative, being elected on the Republican ballot, I guess I just thought everybody had maybe the same mindset on what needed to be done and how it needed to be done. And I found out that is not correct. What I have found out, and the other thing is that being a public health nurse for the bulk of my career, all I know how to do is serve. And so it's not been surprising to me that I would have a lot of opportunity to serve my constituents, and that's what I do best.
Right.
But I guess what has been surprising to me is that I guess every legislator does not go there with maybe a servant's heart. They go there more with and I'm not saying that we don't have really good legislators. We do on both sides of the aisle.
Right.
But when I realized that maybe everybody did not come there with the same understanding that I did, that we were going to all think the same way.
Right. I understand.
So what I've done since I've been there, I guess the thing that I'm most proud of, and you didn't ask me that, but I would just say it now, I realized that in order to get anything done, because I'm a health chair for policy and appropriations, and so there are 6 of us this time. That's been a little hard to manage, but it's better if we have about 3. It's when you get 6 people trying to make one decision.
Right.
Based on what I just said earlier, it's really hard.
Believe me.
But anyway, so I think that it's just been what I realized early on is probably during my orientation is that there were good people on both sides of the aisle that had good ideas and needed to have a voice. And I thought, if I worked as hard as I've worked to get up here and they worked as hard as they've worked to get up here, I need to give them a chance to have a voice.
Right.
So that's what I started from the very beginning. I have made friends on both sides of the aisle. I've made some enemies on both sides of the aisle, I guess.
That happens.
I'm not going to talk about that because I really don't know.
No,
but I'm sure I've got some enemies.
No, it happens.
But,
it absolutely happens.
But what I have really enjoyed doing is looking at the expertise on both sides of the aisle. And when I do a bill, and I've had the honor of putting a lot of bills in that have been passed. I've had a lot of bills that's been put in the trash can when they get on the other side of the chamber, but we won't talk about that right now.
Well, it happens.
So, but what I've done is looked at the expertise, and if I have a bill, that their expertise on either side of the aisle is what I need on my bill to give it strength, I go to that person and ask them if they'll serve with me on the bill. And that has happened over and over again for the 6 years and 10 months. Then also there's a couple of years ago, I got bold enough I was asked if I would put my name on their bills, which I've done many times.
Right.
And I've also got it now to the point that they can put their name first and not be in the first spot, but I will just be a backup.
Right.
But I think that's the way to make good legislation, and I wished across the political spectrum we could have more of bringing the best out of each person and using that and working together. I mean, 95% of the time we vote together. It's just, we just do.
Right.
But it's only those 5% of issues where there's friction, and that's going to always be, because you have folks that have, this is some of their major things, and you have folks that and they're never going to come together on that, but you can still make it work if you come together on those 95% of things that we can collaborate and share our expertise on.
Right. And I think
that's been surprising to me that I was able to work that out, because I didn't find it when I got there, and now I found it, and it's being demonstrated, and I think it's being practiced more across the aisle.
I do think the public, if they looked at all the votes cast, would recognize that the majority of the votes
95%.
have well over 100 votes out of 120. Exactly. You know what I mean? And then you just have the issues that get in the headlines.
If you don't have more than about 110, that means a lot of people are out that day.
Right. So, it really is, the hot button issues are hot button issues. But other than that, everybody largely agrees and gets along. And I don't think that was surprising to me when I went to the legislature. I thought every single vote was a fight. And I mean, I was there for 4 months before I saw anything get less than 100 votes. Yeah, I mean, you know what I mean? I was like, what in the world? So anyway, but it was fascinating. But as we talk about, I guess, the best of Johnston County, and of course you represent Johnston County and have for a long time, what makes Johnston County special?
Well, I'm going to answer that in a two-part answer. I'm going to say what made Johnston County special to me up until about 2008, it may be a little bit before that, a little bit after, was the fact that everybody knew everybody, just like we just talked earlier. You could go to the grocery. It would take me 2 hours at the grocery store, not because I was getting groceries, but because I saw everybody I knew, and it was like a great time to just catch up.
Oh my gosh.
So no matter where you went, you didn't have a lot of choices about where you went.
Right.
But wherever you went, whether it you church or the grocery store or getting gas or just outside walking or something, there was just tons of people that you could talk with, and you had the same language, you talked the same. Tell the same silly jokes. You had that common, you knew their mom and their grandma and blah, blah, blah. So it was like a huge family that you could feed off of. And that was true for me from like Smithfield, not just Clayton, but Smithfield, Selma, Archer Lodge, Kinley, Four Oaks, Benson. I just felt like I had this huge family out there and that was obviously it intensified after I got elected because I was going out there with the school board to everything that was going on and meeting a lot of new people. But it just always felt like you had this huge family that you were very familiar with. And it gave you a sense of confidence and just enjoyment. So that's my first part. So the second half of that is where we are now. Because we're growing, my district is the fastest growing district in the state and the 9th fastest in the nation. And I'm not talking about all of Johnston County, it's western Johnston County, which is just my strip now. I've lost my Smithfield precincts, I've lost all of my Cleveland precincts now except one. And so pretty much my district now is Clayton and Archer Lodge and the rural area going up to the Wilson, Franklin, Nash County line, County line. So, people are moving in so quickly, so fastly, and in such numbers, 800 people a month for the last 3 years in my district, 300 to 500 a month for the first 3 years I was there. So, I'm meeting new people every day, and I love that. But, sometimes when I talk my Southern English, I feel like Randy Owen in Alabama. They don't understand.
No, I understand that. I understand that.
But I think what has happened with the influx of a lot of new people at one time is that obviously we kind of lost a lot of that familiarity. And there's so many people too that have decided that they don't like the growth, so they've moved to Emerald Isle. So we've got Emerald Isle Clayton and Emerald Isle Johnston County.
Well, that's true.
I mean, we've got Emerald Isle Clayton, and then we've got Clayton in Johnston County. But the good thing about the growth is that I have met so many wonderful people that have moved here, have new customs that I'm learning, and new jokes and new language. So it's always an opportunity to share, that with people, new friends that I'm making all the time, and that is so special. And I know that so many people that moved here in that first round of folks that moving in, they moved here because they wanted wide open spaces, and they just loved the fact that we didn't have traffic and all that stuff. And I think the thing that I love most about Johnston County is that I could get on 42 east, and I could drive all the way to Wilson County line without seeing a car, and I could see wild turkeys on the road. I could see fox, deer. I mean, it was just amazing. And that's what a lot of the first round of people that came in saw. And actually, I was talking to a lady here in Cleveland just a couple of months ago, and she said, what happened when I moved here? And she moved here about that time, early 2000s. It was just wide open spaces, and we were so happy to be in a farming community. I said, well, it is what it is.
Well, I mean, it's going to continue to grow. I mean, and I give a lot of credit to, I think our county commissioners have done a great job. We've had a lot of different ones. I think,
and we had a really good school system. That brought a lot of people, especially children with intellectual and developmental disabilities. That brought a lot of people here. And that was when I was on the school board. I'd say, how did you choose Johnston County? And they said, well, you've got I-40, which of course hadn't been opened until the early 90s, and then and it goes straight to Duke and Chapel Hill. And so we lived places that we didn't have access to our children with those issues. So that's been a major drawing card, as well as, we have two large two of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world, Grifols and Novo. So we've got a lot of stuff pulling people in here, and that's a good thing.
Right.
And used to, there was only one restaurant open in Johnston County on Sunday. I won't say where it is because, it's not open now.
Right.
But it was on 70 going towards Smithfield on the left, and they had great coconut pie.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
But there was no other place to eat.
No, it really
now
is.
you have choices.
Oh, you have tons of choices, and you're going to get even more choices.
Yeah, the growth has brought choices, and it's brought new friends and new ideas and new ways to do things.
Yeah, I think I moved here in 2000 after getting out of law school, and I came here because it was growing. It was near Raleigh. It wasn't Raleigh, but it was growing. It appeared to be an underserved area of lawyers. Did not have enough lawyers for the growth it was having. It still doesn't today have enough lawyers for the growth that it has, which is good and bad. It helps me have plenty of business, but it's bad in that we could use a few more local attorneys to serve the citizens of Johnston County. But there's 60,000 people in Johnston County in 1990, 1991. I-40 was the last stretch of I-40 to open between California and Wilmington. That opens in 1992. Jim Martin was governor. He comes and cuts the ribbon. I remember watching that live on WRAL as a...
we had two television stations.
Right.
5 and 11.
Right. Well, and I watched that as a senior in high school in Laurinburg, North Carolina at the time. And, and now there's 270,000 people in Johnston County. It depending on, that's unbelievable. When you just think about that, it's 4 times bigger than it was, and it's not going to stop.
In the early 2000s, we had a little over 6,000 in Clayton proper.
Right.
We have 31,000 now and growing.
Right. And if you draw a line going from the Wake County line, starting at Corinth Holders, and you make a curved line that goes 5 miles into Johnston County and go all the way down to Willow Spring, I think it's like 60 or 70,000 people just in that 5 miles, the western edge of Johnston County. And it could be even more than that now.
In the 2020 census, and it was confirmed again last year even after they took some precincts away from me, I had 120,000 people in my district.
Right. That's...
That's just the little strip.
That's right. That's
it's
basically...
It's not the rest of the county.
Right. It's basically 70 and 95 to the northwest is your district.
Not 95.
Well, it doesn't even go all the way to 95 anymore.
70...
to the bypass.
Well, actually, a little bit before the bypass.
Like
Wilson's Mills area.
Right.
It's just crazy.
It's unbelievable. But it's been... we've been very fortunate. To have Riverwood and Flowers Plantation... and, out here with Adams Point and Broadmoor. And, we've got some very nice developments. And, we had Paul Flaherty on, and we talked about, the Copper District is going to transform that side of Clayton where the hospital is.
That's going to be bigger than Clayton is now.
Right. And it's going to be like a mini North Hills. And I don't think, it's unbelievable, what's going to happen. Class A office space in Johnston County. They're going to do a tremendous job.
Multi-story office buildings.
That's going to be unbelievably beautiful and well designed, and it'll be something I believe that the people of Johnston County could point to as a point of pride, because the growth is going to come, and whether you like it or not, it's going to come. And so I do think the county commissioners and our legislators and stuff have done a pretty good job of planning for it as best they can. We've got Clayton's getting a new wastewater treatment facility. Johnston County's getting a new wastewater treatment facility.
Thank you to Representative White and Representative Strickland.
Yeah, y'all had a lot to do with that.
This year,
right.
I would mention that to you.
Yeah.
Just this year in the cycle, we got over $20 million for the airport to put in new hangars because people want to come here and put their planes in.
Correct.
That's, there's no taxes there.
Nope.
You get taxes from them, but we don't have to deal with the taxes.
Right.
We got over $20 million for the water and sewer for the county as a whole. And then for Clayton, I was able to get $20 million for water and sewer issues, and we'd just gotten about that much last year for the Sam's Branch reclamation system. Okay. So, and then we're going to get a new senior center in Clayton, which will be, of course, a collaboration between the Community and Senior Services in Smithfield and Clayton. But we got some money for the library so that it can continue to meet the needs of the incoming citizens. We've gotten, let me think.
Oh, there's a ton, and I mean, that was a huge budget.
YMCA, yes. So, and the Archaeology community has been helping them get their big community park done, and for every year for the last 3 sessions we've been able to do it. So this year we got about $2.6 million for them, and that's exactly what they asked for.
Right,
so,
that's awesome.
So it's when you think about being able to actually, a lot of people don't realize that's one of the things that your legislator does is look for resources and work with the whole team of legislators to get each one puts in a little bit, and therefore we can make our pot bigger, and it certainly helps the county, and the county's been very pleased. Plus we put 59% of the state budget in education, and that depends, and we have broadened some of the ways that people can decide to get their education. But when you look at over $11 billion in education for North Carolina, and a chunk of that came to Johnston County. So, there's, of course, in my field of healthcare, we've done a lot to address the mental health issue. I got money for additional mental health beds at Johnston Health. UNC Johnston Health.
And they'll be full by the minute they open.
They're
There's
already
no
full
doubt.
before
It'll be open. The mental health beds will be full before they open.
I got the first set 2 years ago, and they're working on those now.
Absolutely needed that.
We added some more there, but just mental health services across the state that we're adding, and different options that we've also, or help that we've given to local hospitals and physicians. And I guess the biggest thing that I need to still get past, and I work on that, I've been working on that since 2017 is the SAVE Act, which allows advanced practice registered nurses and clinical specialists, and we did get the midwives in.
I saw that.
Full. We don't call it scope of practice now. We call it full practice authority.
Well, the PAs unfortunately have not gotten that.
That's what I'm saying. And the
SAVE
Act has been my act.
And they should, in my opinion. But that's a debate for next year, and maybe it will. So I guess to wrap this up, what has you excited about Johnston County moving forward over the next couple of years?
Well, I see an increased desire by the county commissioners and hopefully the school board and the legislators to work more jointly together. Sometimes we're, in years past, sometimes we've all been working for Johnston County, but sometimes we maybe didn't know exactly what the other group wanted. So I think with more meetings than we're having now to try to talk things through, hopefully that will allow us to know what everybody wants and what they're working on, and how we can just support and enhance each other.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I want to thank you for coming and taking your time out of your busy schedule, Representative Donna White, to come meet with us. That'll be it for this episode of Best of Johnston County. If you like what you heard and you want to be able to follow up, click the like button or the follow button wherever you're listening to this podcast or watching it on YouTube, so that you'll know when future episodes will be coming out. You don't want to miss who's going to be next. We've got a lot of great guests lined up over the next few weeks that you're not going to want to miss. Also, if you would be kind enough to give us a 5-star review and write a review about how much you've enjoyed the podcast, that will increase our visibility to other people that might be out there looking for podcasts, that might be looking for information about Johnston County. Until next time, I'm Jonathan Breeden. Thanks a lot.
That's the end of today's episode of Best of Johnston County, a show brought to you by the trusted team at Breeden Law Office. We thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to sharing more interesting facets of this community next week. Every story, every viewpoint adds another thread to the rich tapestry of Johnston County. If the legal aspects highlighted raise some questions, help is just around the corner at www.breedenfirm.com.